Okay, let's continue our discussion about the while loop. And the next topic is infinite loop. And infinite, of course, you know what does it mean, right? And well, the example is, well, in the while loop, we also always want to check a condition, right? And the rule is if the condition is true and then we stay in the loop for one round, we check the condition again. If it is true, we stay in the loop for another round. And my question is, if this condition will be true in the next infinite number of the checks, what is going to happen? In other words, if that condition is always true, and then we can never quit. So we will stay in this iteration forever, right? So one easy example will be while one, and then print. I will run forever. So while one, what does this mean? Well, we just say we are supposed to have a Boolean expression, right? So it should be either true or false. But remember, in the if-else condition, we also talk about the values which will be evaluated to be true or false. And what's the rule? For all the non-zero values, they will be evaluated as true, right? So this one is here, and this one will always be evaluated as true. So this means this condition is always true, and then this body, we are going to run this body forever, right? So let me give you another example. Say, well, now I want to change this code. Well, and say I want to propose to a girl, and then this girl do a random value between 1 to 10. And the check condition is as long as this number is not 100, and then she will say, no, I'm not going to marry you, and then you propose 1 month later. So let me explain to you about this logic again. Well, now the story is different. I'm proposing to someone else, and that person really doesn't like me. Okay, and then every time, I'm gonna generate a random number between 1 to 10. And then the rule is if that random number happens to be 100, and then this girl will say yes. And guess what? This number is supposed to be 1 to 10 only, right? So this number will never be 100. So I'm gonna be stuck here forever. So let me run this and show you what's going on. So it just prints, and it never stops. So it looks like this program never stops, and then or it just freezes. And then if you want to stop this, you really have to click on this stop button, or this program is going to run forever. And that is another example about the infinite loop. So this condition will always be true, and then as a result it will run forever. Okay, and this one is another example. So you really have to be very careful, because when you write this kind of code, if you look at this, and it is always correct, right? So there's no syntax error. And then if you run that, and it's kind of weird, and this program never stops. So if you really have this kind of iteration, it never stops. And one of the easiest trick is every time, when you enter a iteration, you want to do a print for yourself. So this is not part of the project, but usually if you want to have some additional output to help you debug your code, and go ahead and do that. So I'm going to say entering another round of iteration with my rand value as colon. So, and then I'm printing my rand value here. So every time when I enter the iteration, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to print my rand value once. So if I run this again, and then after running it for a couple of minutes and then I stop, and you see the problem. The problem is I can get random values 3, 7, 8, 3. So those are all the random values, much lower than 100. So the problem is clear. That is, I can get random values between 1 to 10. However, I'm never gonna get 100. So that's the reason that I have my iteration running forever, which is a infinite loop, right? So after I have figured out this problem, and then I can easily delete this code, because this line of code is for debugging purpose only. I don't really have to keep that in my final deliverable code. So I'm gonna delete that, and then I'm also gonna fix this part. So now this program is correct. Okay. So, and let's see a few more examples about the while. And say I want to print all the odd numbers between 0 to 10. So I start a value called count equals 0, and then as long as the count is smaller or equal to 10, and then I'm just gonna visit all the values from 0 to 10, right? And then, well, I'm gonna check if count most 2 is not a 0. This means that's an odd number. I'm gonna print that. And otherwise, if that one is not a true, this means I'm visiting a even number. And then I do nothing. But anyhow, it doesn't matter the if condition is true or false. I'm always gonna increase the count by 1. So, well, if you want to skip the if part for now, that is, I'm gonna start from 0 as long as count is smaller or equal to 10, and then I'm going to increase the count by 1. So it's guaranteed I'm going to visit all the values from 0 to 10. And then I also add a condition, and that condition only does something if the current value is an odd number. So I'm plugging in a if statement in the body of a loop, and that's okay. That's definitely okay. Okay, and here is another example. And well, in last lecture we talked about how we can visit all the characters in a string, character by character, right? And I'm gonna use a while loop to do so. That is, I'm gonna use I to be the index, and then as long as I is smaller than the length of the x, I'm gonna print x with the I as the index. And well, and equals the empty string means I don't want to do a line break yet. Okay, and my goal is I want to visit all the characters one by one, and for each character I visit, I'm using the I as the index to print the current character. Okay, so this is not correct yet. I missed something. Do you know what I missed? I miss this line, because every time when I finish visiting the current character, I do want to move my index to the next one by increasing my index, right? So every time I have to increase the I by 1 so that I visit the index 0, and after that I increase that, and then I visit the character on the index 1, then index 2, index 3, index 4. So I do have to increase the index, which is x, once each round. Okay? So here is another example. Well, I want to do a little bit more, which is, well, remember after each character printed, I want to do a end equals a empty string. So I didn't really got a chance to do a line break. So I will print every character of this string one by one on the same line, but remember there's no line break at the very end. So I do want to enforce a line break. And how do I do that? So remember, we can make use of the else after everything has been visited, and then I want to do a print. I print nothing, but by default Python will give me a line break, right? And then I print I have gone through this string. So eventually I will visit all the characters one by one, and after that we stop here, but this print will help me do a line break. So I start here, and then I print I have gone through this string. Okay, so here is another example of a indefinite loop. That is, well, we want to ask the user to type us a password. So, well, the password initialized to be a empty string. And as long as the password is not Python 131, I'm going to ask the user to input a password. And if the password is indeed Python 131, we print you are logged in. Otherwise, we say sorry, try again because you don't have a right password. And after that, we will go back and we will check the password again. If the password is Python 131, we will finish this iteration. Otherwise, we are going to ask for the password again. So this is another example of the indefinite loop because we are going to keep on asking the user to type the password again and again until the user types the correct password, right? So that is a indefinite loop. Okay, so I will have one more video talk about the data exercise for the day 10. Well, usually this is the time I say that to my students, and you are currently at the hardest part of this course. Well, because especially if you're new to programming and this section, when we are talking about the conditions and the iterations, nested iterations and the iteration combined with conditions, that's the hardest part of this course. So hold on for now and ask me questions, and if you need me, and shoot me emails, and we can schedule a personal time so that we can be both online and at the same time, and in a Zoom meeting we can talk. Well, this is the hardest part of this course, and in the rest of this semester, of course, we are going to learn new things. But if you are able to pass this part, and then, well, the second half of this course will be slightly easier for you. Okay, so, well, I'm just encouraging you guys. If you're doing fine, I'm happy to hear that. But if you're struggling a little bit, try to seek for some help from me or from the TA. We are both offering the office hours online on Zoom. Well, if you manage to pass the hardest part of this course, the second half will be easier for you guys. Okay, see you in the next video.